Eagles free agency has been pretty wild so far, and a recent update revealed that things could get even crazier in the near future, as another big trade could be in the works for Philly, and you may not like it very much, but why could it actually make sense in the long run? Meanwhile, the Eagles just made a flurry of interesting signings in free agency, while their last remaining big free agent is officially gone. So let's break that down, as well as all the other latest Eagles news, starting right now. Things got pretty eventful for the Eagles in free agency over the weekend, and we start with the Birds' last remaining big free agent leaving the nest. As I'm sure you've all seen by now, it was reported late on Friday night by Tim McManus that right guard Mekhi Becton will in fact be moving on, as he agreed to a 2-year deal with the LA Chargers, and a deal that was later revealed to be worth $20 million total. So $10 million a season for Becton, and he's officially leaving Philadelphia. And first, I'll start by saying thanks to Mekhi Becton for stepping up at right guard and helping the Birds win a Super Bowl. Obviously, his story is pretty amazing, having gone from a guy who everybody thought was a bust with the Jets to then switching to guard with the Eagles, becoming a really good player, a Super Bowl champion, and now earning a bigger contract with the Chargers. So again, shout out to him. It's such a cool story, and like with a lot of these guys, it definitely really hurts to see him go, especially since he was really one of the few guys that we actually thought the Eagles might have a chance to re-sign in free agency, but it is what it is. So, Mekhi Becton, we'll miss you in Philly, man. We love you, and good luck in LA. Oh, and by the way, the hair. I lost a bet, pretty much, so now I'm doing my best Nick Sirianni impersonation, but I'm not going to lie, I kind of like it. But anyways, getting back to the Becton thing, as much as it sucks, I do want to stress that this is no reason to panic. I mean, as I've now said when it comes to pretty much every player that the Eagles have lost this offseason, Howie Roseman and the Birds have a plan. And Becton, as good as he was, probably wasn't the guy that fit into their long-term strategy. Now, not saying they didn't want him back, but right now, their top priority is making sure that they have enough money to be able to extend some of their young core players over the next few offseasons. So paying a guy like Becton significant money over multiple years probably wouldn't be the wisest thing when 1, you have these other contracts to worry about, 2, you get a compensatory pick out of it, likely in the 5th round for 2026, which is amazing, and 3, they already have a guy behind him in Tyler Steen, who they just drafted in the 3rd round a couple years ago, that is fully capable of taking over at that right guard spot. I mean, heck, he was set to take over that job this past year before Becton came in and beat him out, so it makes sense that the Eagles would choose giving Steen a chance to play now over paying Becton. Oh, and in the games that Steen has played in, he's been pretty good, as he started at right guard against the Bengals this past year in Week 8, and he allowed just 1 pressure and no sacks, while the Birds' offense put up 37 points and almost 400 total yards. Then fast forward to the NFC Championship, where he started at left guard, and the Eagles obviously dominated and put up 55 points. And overall, in games that Steen has started in his career, the Eagles are 4-0, and they average 35 points per game and 323 yards per game. Plus, you also got Jeff Stoutland coaching him up, and he's going to get the best out of him. So, personally, I'm confident in Steen and excited to see what he can do. Plus, you also got Kenyon Green, who you just traded for, who might have a chance to compete for that spot. Still, I would definitely say Steen is the heavy favorite, but, we'll see how it all shakes out. Moving on, though, the Eagles also lost another guy on Saturday, this time with wide receiver Paris Campbell signing with the Dallas Cowboys on a 1-year deal. Now, Campbell seemed like a good guy, and I personally always admired how he expressed his faith in Jesus, so I wish him the best, but football-wise, he didn't do much on the field during his time in Philly, so losing him won't really hurt. And honestly, I feel bad for him that he's going to Dallas now, and same goes for former Eagles running back Miles Sanders, who just also signed a 1-year deal with Dallas. And as That Hurts on Twitter pointed out, that smile looks pretty forced, if you know what I'm saying.
I am dead inside.
Moving on, though, the Eagles made some more moves recently, all of which are very similar and once again pretty much fall into the same mold of all the other signings that the Birds made this offseason, being cheap, 1-year signings that have the potential to pan out. And we'll start with possibly their most intriguing signing with kick returner / punt returner Avery Williams. And again, this is an interesting move because 1, how often do you see the Eagles sign a guy who is strictly labeled as a return man? 2, it likely means Britton Covey is gone, which honestly is kind of a bummer because he was someone I was really rooting for and really liked, so if he's not back, then I hope he finds success somewhere else. But going back to Williams, in addition to being a return man, he's a guy with a lot of versatility as he's played on both sides of the ball at the NFL level, starting at corner before then switching to running back and getting some action there. And then as a return man last year, he averaged 27 yards per kick return and 9 yards per punt return while not having a single muffed return in his entire career. So again, it's definitely an interesting signing and hopefully it pans out. Moving on though, the Eagles also brought back a familiar face in edge rusher Patrick Johnson, who of course was drafted to Philly in 2021 in the 7th round and spent 3 full years with the team and actually started the 2024 season with them as well before he was waived early in the season to create space for practice squad elevations and was picked up by the Giants. So him coming back I think is clearly a sign that the Eagles never really wanted him to leave in the first place, and that's for good reason because although he doesn't have even a single sack in his NFL career yet, he's someone that has potential and could possibly, best case, be a solid depth piece for Philly's edge rushing rotation in a very small role. So we'll see if Johnson's able to stick around this year, but I definitely like the move to bring him back. And another move that I like is the one they made at tight end, signing former Colt Kylen Granson to a 1-year deal. And this is someone who has some familiarity with someone on the Eagles coaching staff, being new pass game coordinator Parks Frazier. And despite him not putting up crazy stats and only starting 17 games in 4 years in Indy, he's a more well-rounded tight end than probably any other option the Eagles have on their depth chart besides Dallas Goedert, as his blocking ability is solid and receiving-wise, he has multiple years over 300 receiving yards, and he's been over 12 yards a catch the past 2 seasons. So again, I really like the move to add some depth and possibly be a contributor for Philly this season. Oh, and also, that now makes 2 tight ends that the Eagles have signed in free agency this offseason, on top of the fact that this draft class that's upcoming is loaded at the tight end position. So pair that with some reports we've gotten this offseason, and it certainly seems like the Eagles could be preparing themselves for the potential departure of Dallas Goedert. And a new report from reporter Jordan Schultz on Goedert and also Eagles disappointing edge rusher Bryce Huff only further confirms that, as he said, quote, "Sources, the Eagles have been open to trade talks involving tight end Dallas Goedert and defensive end Bryce Huff. Goedert is in the final year of his deal, while Huff, one of last year's big free agent signings, has seen limited playing time due to Philly's deep rotation." And this is something that I dove into and really broke down in my live stream on Saturday. Anyways, yeah, so this is interesting because a couple days ago I talked about the whole Goedert trade rumors, the Huff trade rumors. I said, the Goedert trade rumors, they did make sense. As much as it sucks again, I love Dallas Goedert. I think he's super valuable. I think he led the team in receiving yards during these playoffs. I think he's number 2 in Eagles playoff receiving yards history. And, what he means to the run game is also really important because I forget the exact stat, but if you look at the numbers when he's on the field versus off the field, the run game does a lot better when he's out there. So to lose him would stink. But again, the Eagles right now, their main priority is trying to clear up space, a lot of money over these next few years to make sure they're able to extend their guys like Reed Blankenship, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, all these guys, Cam Jurgens this offseason. So they're going to try and make moves to clear money off the books, and that's why you see a shocking move like the C.J. Gardner-Johnson trade. And as much as it sucks, Goedert seems like the most likely candidate to be next because, you're going to eat some dead money this year with the trade. If you do it pre-June 1st, I believe it's $11 million in dead cap. I think if you do it post-June 1st, it's like $5 million and then $6 million next year. So you're eating $11 million either way. It's just, depends on when you're going to do it. But if you're going to do that, he's got a lot of money due over the next, I think he's got 4 void years on his contract, a bunch of money due in those years that it's going to hit against the cap. And once he's gone, it'll hit against the cap anyway, all at the same time. So you want to be able to, if they were to move off of Goedert and get rid of that money, as much as it would suck, it would make sense. Now that said, I said in my video, if you could do something like maybe do like what you did with Josh Sweat last offseason and do a restructure for one final year and maybe take away some of the negative cap hits in years in the future. If they could figure out a way to do that, which again, I'm no cap expert. I don't know what's possible and what's not, but if they could do that, I think that would be beneficial because again, I think Goedert's really important. And if you're going to replace him, I'd at least like to, draft a guy this year, have him play behind Goedert, learn behind Goedert for a season, and eventually he can take over. But yeah, it does make sense that they would be open to a trade. Probably post June 1st would be when they would do it. But we'll see what happens there. I think, again, it's definitely a possibility. I'm kind of split on whether it's going to happen or not. I'm probably 50-50. And then the Bryce Huff thing is interesting because I said a couple of days ago that I didn't think that was going to happen because I'm pretty sure if you trade Bryce Huff, you're eating $26 million in dead cap this year or something crazy. And then I don't even know what it is post June 1st. But you're eating a lot of dead cap either way. That said, once again, Anthony DeBona had a really, really good tweet, which I'll actually try and pull that up now. There we go. So he says, the Eagles likely already view any money associated with Bryce Huff as a sunk cost. Therefore, they'd likely be willing to accept nearly anything in return for Huff, who was healthy and active in Super Bowl 59. So, yeah, again, I guess it makes sense when you put it like that. I mean, I was saying, I think a couple days ago, I did a video talking about how Bryce Huff could maybe potentially be the X factor for the edge rusher group because maybe he could still pan out, hopefully, but it looks like they don't really. If this report from Schultz is true, maybe they don't believe in him. And again, he's owed a lot of money over the next few years, and if you can get that contract off the books, that clears up a lot of space to be able to sign all these other guys. So, yeah, I mean, I think as much as it's been hard to watch all these guys leave, and you trade CJ, which is hard to watch, and as much as it would be hard to see Goedert get traded, or you're losing all these other guys and you're not making big additions, it is all for a reason. And this is what happens when you win. Like when you win a Super Bowl, other teams look at your players and they're like, we want them, and they're going to pay them a lot of money, and you likely can't afford it. So, and the Eagles already have like 8 big contracts on the books. I think it is. I can't remember exactly everybody, but you got Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson, Saquon, Zach Bond. I'm probably missing people, but yeah, I mean, they got a lot of guys on big contracts already. And Landon Dickerson, there's another one. So, you can't afford to pay absolutely everybody. And then they got a bunch more guys coming up, whether it's this year, whether it's next year, or the year after that, they're going to be due big contract extensions. Plus, you still got the draft, and you're probably, knowing Howie Roseman, he's probably going to hit on a couple picks, and then those guys are going to need extensions as well. So, I really hope we don't get to a point where we're starting to lose our homegrown, first round, second round picks just because we can't afford them, because that would really suck. But, whatever it takes to keep your core together, I think you got to do that, because it's going to keep the Super Bowl window open as long as possible. And, that means maybe losing guys like Dallas Goedert and CJ Gardner-Johnson and Mekhi Becton, like I talked about earlier in the stream. Look, at the end of the day, I think it's just important for us fans to be patient, right? The Eagles clearly have a plan. They're doing everything that they're doing for a reason. So as much as it hurts to see some of these guys go, and it's kind of scary to see your roster on paper getting worse for next season, we just have to remember, again, stay patient. It's all part of a bigger plan. And who are we to not trust the guy that has put together 2 Super Bowl winning teams and 3 Super Bowl rosters? I'm always going to trust Howie Roseman. We got the draft still coming up, and I think they're going to make a lot of moves there. But again, we'll see how it all plays out, and whether it's Goedert or Huff getting traded, or we end up making a significant signing or not, whatever happens, you guys already know I'm going to be covering it all here on this channel. So make sure you guys are subscribed and you have notifications turned on so you don't miss when I upload a video or go live. And also, while you're at it, make sure you drop a like to show some support as well, because it really does help me out a ton. Let's see if we can get to at least 600 likes on today's video. And also, leave a comment down below, again, just regarding anything that I talked about in this video. And if you want to watch another Eagles video going over what the Birds offseason plan is, you can check this out right here. And now, with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.